What's that in the sky? Is it a plane?
That is the constellation Leo.
No, it's somebody's annoying drone.
Hello, welcome to the Escape Podcast, your source for all good things in the universe of movies. I'm Josh.
And I'm Brandon.
Today is episode 43, and we're going to be talking about The Incredibles from 2004, directed by Brad Bird. Stars Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Jason Lee, and Samuel L. Jackson. It has a 97% critic score and a 75% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Incredibles is the sixth Pixar feature film and the first to feature human characters in lead roles. Brad Bird started off as an animator on films The Plague Dogs, Fox and the Hound, and The Black Cauldron before moving on to a writer-producer role in Batteries Not Included. He eventually became the writer-director on films such as The Iron Giant, Ratatouille, Tomorrowland, and of course the upcoming Incredibles 2, which hits theaters this Friday. His first live-action film was Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
The Plague Dogs.
That was that one that's kind of like Watership Down that we were just looking at the other day.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, he was an animator on that. In fact, he animated some shots for this movie.
Okay. Was that all the trivia?
No.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
Okay, so Jason Lee recorded his lines in 4 days, while Craig T. Nelson's took 2 years to complete.
What?
Bird said that he got the idea in the early 90s from his struggle with balancing family life with a career. The line, "You sly dog, you got me monologuing," was voted number 15 on the 100 Greatest Movie Lines by Premiere in 2007. Brad Bird had Spencer Fox, the voice of Dash, run around the studio to get a realistic, out-of-breath voice.
I could do that just by reaching for the TV controller.
Syndrome's facial features were based off Bird's. Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson, two of Disney's 9 old men, provide the voices for the old men at the end. Animators created a standard man that could be modified to become different people. The teacher, the principal, and the underminer are all the same. In the original script, Syndrome was only in the beginning scenes. The city Metroville was a combination of Metropolis and Smallville. There are several similarities between The Incredibles and the Fantastic Four. Mr. Incredible would be the Thing, Elastigirl, Mr. Fantastic, Violet the Invisible Woman, and Jack the Human Torch. Syndrome's island was made to resemble Neverland.
Neverland.
The movie contains 35 explosions, 189 buttons pushed, and 640 gunshots. Lucius' wife, Honey, is never seen. Syndrome says 15 years too late. The Incredibles 2 will be released 14 years later. Joaquin Phoenix was considered for Syndrome.
But he didn't have the right look?
Yeah. According to the newspaper, the bulk of the film is set in 1962, therefore the beginning is in 1947. This was originally meant for a 2006 release, but the production was ahead of schedule, so it came out in 2004. This is Samuel L. Jackson's first animated film. Helen's sidekick / pilot friend was originally going to fly the jet, which explains why she looks so upset when she looks at the plane exploding.
Okay.
Syndrome's plan to kill all the supers is based off Greek myth in which Kronos plans to eat all his children to remain the only king.
Kronos. Wasn't that carved into the rocks?
Yeah, and that was also the code word, yeah. A tailor was brought in to help to get realistic clothing.
Was it a CG tailor?
Yes. Since DC has a character called Elastigirl, a compromise was made that they could call her that in the film, but everything else she would have to be called Mrs. Incredible. The Nervous Cop is a Die Hard 3 reference, also starring Samuel L. Jackson. And Brad Bird did the voice for Edna Mold.
Okay.
I think I said Mold. Mode.
Mole?
Mode.
Mole?
I think it's Mode. Like...
Oh, Edna Mold.
Mold.
Alright. That was a funny character, by the way.
Yeah, actually I was reading how when they were like doing test stuff, he was doing the voice, they brought in someone to do her voice, and when he was kind of doing what he had done so far to like give that person an idea, apparently, I can't remember who they said it was, but they said, "What do you need me for?" Like, you got it right there.
Yeah.
There we go. So you just watched this for the first time.
It was my first time.
Literally just shut it off. Okay.
Yeah, I was aware of the movie, but I had never actually seen it. I had heard that it was good from various people, especially you.
Yeah.
I know you're excited for the next one. When is it coming out?
This Friday, June 15th.
We better get it out on time.
Yep.
So June 15th.
Yes.
And this one came out when now? In 2004?
Yes.
All right.
So 14 years later. It was one of those movies that I always felt like, you know, it was one of those things I like, okay, come on, we're getting like 3 Cars movies and just all this, you know, Finding Nemo 2. I didn't even like Finding Nemo 1. And like no Incredibles 2, I felt like if any movie deserved for the Pixar movies deserved a sequel, it was this one. However, I do think it was like, had there never been a sequel, I think it was like, I like the whole just seeing like, oh, there's another adventure, another, thing to have to do, but like you don't necessarily just end it there. Like movies used to do that.
What do you know about the second one? Has time
actually,
passed and like?
No, I know the
So
second,
it's like a Simpsons thing.
The second movie takes place exactly where this one leads off.
Okay.
I actually only watched, I think, the first 2 trailers for The Incredibles 2, and because they start showing too much, and I was like, I really am excited for this one. I don't know if you remember when we talked about like upcoming movies, Quiet Place and Incredibles 2 were like my most anticipated movies. So I actually haven't watched any more trailers foiled. I haven't read anything. I want to try to go in as blind as possible. I know in the first trailer they do show him fighting the Underminer, so I know it's like right there.
So it picks up right then.
Right then. Now I don't know if they're going to then after that like jump some years or if it's just continues right along, but anyway.
I was a little bit surprised by maybe how much of the movie seemed like it was geared more towards an older audience than a younger audience.
Yeah, I've actually heard some people say that they feel that Watchmen took some inspiration from this movie. Well, maybe not the comics. I should say the Watchmen movie over.
Well, I know that the Watchmen had its own comic book series before the movie came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie, there's a lot that you can compare this movie to, and I feel like there's a lot that it drew from as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the... Did you say you watched Watchmen?
Once. I'm actually planning on watching it again. It's on Prime right now.
All right. Just to refresh your memory, one of the plots was somebody was going around killing the superheroes.
Yes.
So that's kind of similar in a way.
Yeah, I remember that part.
While I was watching the movie, man, like a bunch of stuff popped in my head. It's like, oh, it reminds me of this, it reminds me of that. And like you could tell it was picking little things from other places to add in. Big comparison would be the Fantastic Four. Like you mentioned that.
Are you saying picking like in a rip-off kind of way, or just a nice little, or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between an homage and...
Okay, very well.
I don't want to say ripping off, but like borrowing certain ideas and themes.
Yeah, but you know what? In a way, it's like, I don't know, man.
Well, I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah, it's just, but like, real talk, like when it comes to DC and Marvel, then like these lower level comic book people, it's like, you're getting to a point where, someone's going to have the same powers or similar type things, like kind of starting to tread on the same ideas.
You're talking about like
with like DC,
you
Marvel.
can't come up with an original superhero anymore. Like
it's like Harley. It's like this. It's going to be like a ridiculous power. Like increased strength, running fast, flying, passing through walls, becoming invisible, shooting flames, shooting laser. Like I mean, how many?
I did notice the thing you said. Like how the name seemed like more like a DC name.
Which one?
The name of the town they were in.
Oh yeah.
Metroville.
Metroville.
Yes. So I noticed that growing up, being more of a fan of Marvel. Like I've never been super comic book nerd, but I know a decent little amount, I guess. Yeah. I was catching more Marvel references in it than anything. Like the sort of Fantastic Four a little bit.
Well, even the fact that they're born with powers, that's kind of like X-Men to a degree.
Yeah.
Well,
one of the themes in Marvel, one of the distinctions that Marvel has kind of in a way is that their superheroes have their own problems.
Yeah.
And whereas, like, Superman doesn't really have any problems. Like, oh, what? Somebody's going to kidnap Lois? How many times has that happened?
No, I know what you mean. Like, they show a lot more than balancing a personal life or a career life with their powers.
Or struggling with, the decisions they have to make on an everyday
I can see
basis. One of the things I thought was kind of cool, too, was watching Mr. Incredible. Once he got into his family life, I can tell where they're going with it. Like, oh, now he feels like he's in a rut. His glory days are behind him. Remind me of Al Bundy a little bit. Always reliving his football days from high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of get it. Like, your life, once you have a family, I mean, I don't have one right now, but I can imagine, like, it becomes all about that, and then you get in your daily routine. I remember a line that John Goodman gave in Roseanne, where he sat down at the table. This is the old series of Roseanne. And they asked him how his day went. And in a very chipper voice, because he was being sarcastic, he's like, this is the 1,432nd day that I've done exactly the same thing in a row. How was your day?
Yeah.
And I could kind of see that with Mr. Incredible. Like, he was starting to get a little bit bored. He wanted to... I feel like there's a small part of him that wanted to just help people, but a lot of it came from him just being bored and him wanting to do, like, that was what he was good at.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how in the beginning he talks about wanting to just settle down, have a normal life, where she's like, no,
And they kind of reverse.
And then they kind of reverse. She becomes
mom,
content with, being a wife and a mother, taking care of the house, where he is now bored. I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, it's not entirely original, but I still feel like it worked well. I think they did a good job. That's happened so many times in my life where the things I wanted when I was, 17 or whatever,
So would you say he wasn't flexible enough?
Yeah.
I liked that they had the teenage girl, that they had her be basically the Invisible Woman.
Mm-hmm. You could say it kind of reflects her. She was always hiding with
shy,
her hair.
Yeah.
Well,
she was shy around the boys. She didn't want anybody to see her, therefore she was invisible.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
So their powers kind of reflected their personalities a little bit.
So, it's a recurring theme now. I feel with a lot of these super-powered movies, like Man of Steel, you had the whole town get tore apart. And then, the next movie, they decide to say,
That's one of my problems with Man of Steel. It's like, all right, so the first Superman movie, just the entire planet is getting destroyed. You have the, giant machine in India pounding at the same time the one in New York is. It's like, where do you go in the next movie?
Well, yeah, and this is one of the earliest movies that I can recall, at least, where they make reference that these heroes doing their thing, putting people in danger, maybe to even save them, is causing ramifications that, I thought it was actually pretty cool the way they explain, how, you have to pay for damages. You have to, yeah.
That's another Marvel thing, like the Superhero Registration Act. They kind of touched on it in the Civil War movie, but that's what the Civil War storyline was in the comic books. Was, look, you heroes, you're going around causing all this destruction. It's not your fault. You're helping save people, but this costs money.
Yeah.
We need to know.
Well, yeah, I remember.
And what if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
That we need to know who to blame, and if you guys are hiding behind masks.
I remember when I was kind of a little older and I looked back at, the Power Rangers TV show, I was like, every day a monster gets huge, they get in their Zords, they're knocking each other into buildings, and they never, and I remember thinking they never talk about people dying, the death toll, why people still live here, how long it takes to get the buildings rebuilt, the fact that it's just on and on.
This is one of the things that surprised me about this. There's death in the movie.
Yes, there's actually, it's kind of amazing to me, people get killed, Mr. Incredible kills the bad guys, and just
the kids killed a couple guys too.
Yeah, the kids, and then even the fact that other heroes were killed. It's actually a little dark,
a little
in
gritty
a good
for a
way.
kids movie.
Well, I
actually feel like it wasn't even really a kids movie.
Brad Bird, this director, I used to always just consider an animated movie. Like you have, your sci-fi movies, action movies, dramas, whatever, comedies, but then animation. And I remember I was listening to a commentary by him, and because he's, again, mostly done animation, he was saying how, he doesn't like it when people say, oh, this is just an animated movie, because he's like, an animated movie could be a drama or a sci-fi or an action or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I was like, you know what, he's right. That's a good point.
I've seen a number of anime movies that were not for children.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And obviously he's worked on it before. What was the scene from the dog one with the dog shot the guy in the face?
Yeah. Now, granted, he didn't write that story,
but he animated it. So,
but I love the line when toward the beginning where Buddy's like, and Incredible, and he's like, you're not affiliated with me. I don't know, for some reason I just always thought that was funny.
I thought they were going down because that reminded me actually of a Batman storyline where Batman has had a number of young boys play
young boys play. Oh my!
Play the part of his sidekick Robin,
right?
And one of them got into some trouble, and they kind of left it open at the end of the comic, and they actually had the readers vote and mail in their votes to whether Robin lived or died, and everybody hated him, so he died.
I heard about that. Yeah.
And I thought that's where they were kind of going with this. He was going to feel guilty because his kid died, and then once he didn't, I kind of figured out that he was going to end up being the villain in the movie.
So you asked me while we were watching what time, what year is this set?
Yeah, it started off, it almost seemed like they weren't giving a specific time.
No, I never personally noticed this newspaper, but that's what they said. And what I think is interesting is I could tell it was supposed to be the 60s, but there was a lot of... It started off looking
like the 50s and 60s to me.
Well, I'm saying not the early part, when they're younger, but when they get to the 15 years later. To me, that was very clearly the 60s, but it's funny. There's a
The
lot
early,
of...
like the way they're doing the newsreels and stuff was like the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the 40s.
Okay.
But there's a lot of things there that like just weren't, and this is a stupid nitpick, but I'm just going to mention it, like weird things that shouldn't have existed at that time. Like, the phones are different, and they looked like, modern cordless phones. There were cell phones, small hidden cameras, VCRs, VHS, voicemail,
and that way
desktop computers.
Kind of reminded me a little bit of... It reminded me of a lot of stuff, so I'm going to keep saying things like this. Like Dick Tracy in a way. Like he had the...
Yes, right.
There was a lot of that like sci-fi futuristic element for the superheroes. He had the car that transformed.
Right, and auto-drive and all that stuff. GPS in there.
And when they got to the 60s, they had the woman that lived with the bad guy. What was her name?
Mirage.
She sent him basically an iPad.
Which is funny too, because Pixar, Apple, did the iPad. I kind of wondered if that was any kind of...
Also, I don't know if you caught it, but the teacher that had the tack on his seat,
Bernie, yeah,
he recorded. How do you record? There weren't VCRs.
Exactly.
That was something from the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So usually movies like this, like a lot of people also make a lot of references to James Bond, not just music, but like
there was a lot of James Bond in it.
The ejection seat, and just various things like that.
And Gadget's the villain that's on a little exotic location.
Yeah.
The woman that's a villain but ends up kind of falling for the hero and helps him out in the end.
Right. A lot of those movies where they're like, they have tech that's, clearly far more advanced than what it's supposed to be.
There are specific scenes too, like shooting the rocket out of the volcano. Like that's a direct villain move from James Bond. Seriously.
Like usually movies
henchmen all over the place.
Yeah, movies like that typically... I expect to see things like, especially in a James Bond movie, they have stuff that just clearly is way too ahead of its time.
The way they combined like the things we know about superheroes and like the spy world, like the James Bond world, and then also a little bit like the I want to say like Johnny Quest type of world where it's an adventure set back in that time period. The way they were able to combine all those things made it reminded me a lot of the Venture Brothers, which was starting to play about a year before this came out. I don't know if it had any influence on it. Maybe there's something floating in the air back then, but the Venture Brothers is a lot like that, where super scientists and superheroes, except it's a more adult version. I wouldn't suggest any children watch it.
Yeah, I thought it was rather interesting. They did kind of like showing the whole like corporate greed, the way like the insurance business and just the whole, we're supposed to be helping our people and just that kind of corruption. I like
how Mr. Incredible was this gigantic guy.
Yeah.
But everything, like...
Nothing was made for him.
Well, he's feeling trapped by his life. And every time you see him during that period, he's sitting in a little tiny cubicle. He's trapped at work.
Yeah, he has to shimmy out the side.
His little tiny boss is bossing him around. A guy could easily do something to kick his butt. But, like, there's this little guy pushing him around. He's in that little car.
Yeah.
He never has space, and that's what he wants. He wants the freedom to go out and fight people.
For sure. I totally, especially, like, I noticed not only is it, like, he fills the whole, like, car, but, like, he had to be hunched over, too.
Yeah.
To do that.
It was almost like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah.
In a way.
I think it's funny, too, how they show how basically, if you're not careful as a person that has those kind of powers, you can, like, break stuff. Like, the doorknob.
He damaged his car.
He
hurt his boss.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like... he cuts the plate and stuff like that, like just all the stuff if he's not careful, he can break things too easily.
I also like the, when he saved the guy from jumping off the building, he was going to kill himself, right? Is that what's going on? And Mr. Incredible saved him, but then ended up suing him.
Yeah.
For damages.
Right.
That's another thing that's like, you see that kind of stuff in the news all the time. Like, why should a burglar be able to sue somebody he's robbing?
Yes. I like that they give you rules on what can and can't be done with, like, for instance, he says, I can't pull water out of the air because it's on fire. Like, I that's the one thing, like, Star Wars bugs me, is the Jedis. Like, it just seems like there's whatever they need them to be able to do in the next movie, they can just do. I want to know, like, to me, it's more interesting, like, that puts a limitation on that character, therefore he has to figure out a new way to get around his problem. I don't like when... now I can just do this magically, or no, I can do that. Like, I like some kind of rules.
Just all of a sudden one day grandmas are flying through space and it's okay.
Yes. Violet, she can't make her clothes become invisible. She can make her body... Like, it seems like a movie like that, usually what they would do is say anything that person touches. So I could grab your hand and then you would become invisible too. But, like, I like that she can only make literally herself. Edna somehow has some material that can, I roll with that. But, like...
They made a joke out of that in one of the Fantastic Four movies.
Okay.
They had a scene where, I think it was Jessica Alba. It was one of the old ones. I think it was the first one. Where something happened and she turned invisible, but so you just saw like a bra and underwear floating around, but she had to take it off because otherwise people would see her, and then when she appeared later she had to cover herself up.
Gotcha. Well, like, kind of like even the Invisible Man, I remember, this is a stupid example I'm sure, but like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the Invisible Man, and that he had to actually take off everything to sneak around, and then like...
I think they did the same thing in like...
They did, yeah. Because
Okay.
there was one point where I was watching a little bit of that, and he literally had to take everything off.
What am I talking about?
The original Invisible Man?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what's up.
Claude Rains.
It's surprising, they could have went with the... I mean, it's current now. I don't know if it would have been an ideal back then, but like everything seems to be going into this genetic modification. I'm kind of glad they did.
What are you talking about?
Well, like Jurassic World, they're genetically altering dinosaurs. The new Predator movie, they're genetically...
Well, in Jurassic Park, they were always doing that.
I guess, yes, with frogs, but now they're crossing them with other dinosaurs to make super dinosaurs or whatever. What I'm getting at is, I could just as easily have seen this be a plot where Buddy wants to be a superhero, so what he's doing is he's capturing all these superheroes, extracting their blood, and somehow figuring out what makes them have these abilities so he can basically make himself have all the, like... I mean, I'm glad it didn't, but you know what I mean? There
was a character in the comic books who was an enemy of the Fantastic Four where basically he copied all their powers, so he could do everything they could do.
Yeah. Did you ever watch I don't think you did, the TV show Heroes?
I did not.
Oh, I won't say too much, but there was this one character who his power was just really stupid.
Was it Spock?
No, that's, oh wow, I used to know his name.
Siler.
No, his name is Peter Petrelli. And when you first meet him...
Sounds like he has the ability to own a deli.
Wow. No. He basically has this one power, and you're like, oh my goodness, that is just the stupidest power ever. And then when you find out what he can do with it, it's like, oh my goodness, that's the best power. But anyway.
All right, powers for a second. I've had conversations with my friends. I think
Yes.
probably a lot of people do this stuff.
What powers would I want?
What power, and then you have restrictions. The way me and my friends did it a while ago to try and like, you have to say what power you'd want and give an example of who you're using as your basis, and it would work just like theirs. So you would get their abilities,
okay,
and their weaknesses too. And then if you pick something stupid like flying, there would be consequences to that, like winds and all that stuff, that you wouldn't normally think about. So flying might actually suck. It sounds fun. So pick anybody, honestly, from a comic book or a TV show or movie or anything like that has an ability, and you got that. Which one is it?
If I could just have one? Mm-hmm. Oh man, I guess the most useful one I could think of would probably be the ability to like read minds.
What I picked was similar to yours.
Okay.
Why read minds?
Because you can get the most use out of it. Like, if I could have several, I would increase strength, great. The ability to pass through walls, super. All this stuff, how about to become invisible? That sounds good too, but like, if I could have just one...
What would you do with it?
There's a lot of times I find that, like, maybe Brittany's mad at me. And it's like, I know...
I was going to make a joke. It's because you're married, isn't it?
I don't actually know. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, I have an idea what I did wrong, but I'm still not clear on why she's upset about it or something. If that makes any sense at all, it probably doesn't. It'd be great for that. I'd also be great at work.
I was going to make a joke, but I don't want to mention your job in any negative way.
Yeah. Well, that's why I never like to say where I work, just in case.
I ended up picking mind control, and I immediately said I'm not allowed to have that because there's no way you can be good with that power. You would be an evil person.
It'd be difficult.
Even if you start off with good
freezing
intentions.
time would also be a nice one, but that could probably land too much trouble.
I can see you getting into a lot of trouble with that. Yeah. Real quick, anybody out there that's listening, drop us a comment. Let us know what superpower you'd want.
Yeah. I thought, again, we kind of were talking about this a little bit, but there's like real dilemmas, real consequences, I guess would be the better way to put it, of he can do things that are good things, save people, but it puts his family life in jeopardy. And I think that was cool that it's not just something they threatened with. It's like basically, hey, she just unpacked the last box because they keep having to move because he keeps doing stuff, that he wants to do. And I was kind of liking it. It kind of reminds me of like these rock bands from like, 70s, 80s, even 90s, where they had their heyday, they settle down, they have a wife, they have kids, but then they want to be back on stage in the spotlight. So then they start touring again. And like, some of these kids, either it's like they go on tour bus with dad, or they stay home and they never, the audience almost gets more FaceTime with their dad than the kid does. And I'm not saying it's always selfish, but I definitely think there's a lot of times it can be selfish for these guys to do that, like
that's a personality that exists. I've brought up wrestling several times on the podcast. A lot of wrestlers are like that. They never really saw their families. And some of them were able to get out of it and spend time with their families. Other ones died doing what they love without really spending any time with their families.
Yeah. Did you notice what the pencil said when he calls Bob to his office?
He's sharpening it?
Yeah. It says, "Your life is in our hands." I just thought that was kind of funny.
And it was in his hand.
Yeah.
Real quick, so Star Trek references. We almost always have one in every episode. What's our Star Trek?
We're pretty sure Wallace Shawn, the boss.
Yep, the Grand Nagus himself. The greedy guy happens to be a Ferengi.
Yeah, from Star Trek DS9.
That actor is also the same one from Princess Bride, right?
Yes. He's also in Toy Story.
I believe you're right. He's the pig, I want to say?
Rex.
The T-Rex?
Yeah.
So I also...
Can you imagine having a boss like that? So demeaning? You had bosses like that?
So, anyway, I can also bring up a Star Wars reference, too.
Ooh, new territory.
Yes. When the kids are running from those guys in the ships through the jungle.
Yes.
I was waiting for the Ewoks to come out and save them.
This is the first time I noticed that. I was like, oh my goodness, that's like Return of the Jedi.
Even like the ships were different, but they were like speeders, and even the way the jungle, even before those guys were chasing them, was already kind of reminding me of Endor. And then the chase scene, like that was straight up Star Wars right there.
Yeah. I would love to know like about the pictures and other objects he has displayed in his office.
Where he was keeping his suit.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. It was just a simple way to show like how much stuff he had done over the years. But I mean, not that they have to, but if they ever did a prequel movie, that'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind seeing some of those other adventures.
I was just thinking about it, because I don't want everything. You get franchise overload. We've got the Marvel Cinematic Universe going right now, and then everybody trying to copy them. There were other things that are classics in the past that they should never touch, but like Indiana Jones, they got to keep making more. There's been a billion Transformers movie, even though there shouldn't have been more than one.
But I mean, this is only just now after 14 years, the sequel.
It's just everything now is sequels and franchises, and now.
Well, I'm excited for the sequel. I'm not knocking it.
That's fine, and that's cool that they're making a sequel now. It's just I don't want it to be... I'm
not saying I want them to, but I'm just saying if they did, I wouldn't mind seeing some of those early things.
Even certain TV shows, I think if you had one season of it, that's good. Like, I watched Westworld. I don't think you did.
No.
I watched Westworld, and I was fine. I was fine with just one season. And it's like, that was good enough.
Did they do another season?
Yeah, there's a new one out right now. I don't know if it's over yet.
Okay.
I lost my HBO before I got a chance to watch it. I'll get it back eventually.
I'm glad you showered.
Oh, horrible body odor joke.
Personally, I like his blue suit better than his red suit. I just like the look of it.
What about his zoot suit? Okay, speaking of the suits, Samuel Jackson, is the happiest I've ever heard him in a movie. It's funny, they kind of made his character look a little bit like him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also at the end when they're fighting the aliens from War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Just his suit was hilarious because it didn't look cool at all, no pun intended.
Yeah.
It looked like a skier's uniform that's participating in the Olympics.
Yeah, they said they modeled the way he was throwing ice and power skating. There was a specific Olympian they modeled his movements after.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the movements too, but like even just the way he looked, like his suit kind of reminded me of that. I guess you can't infringe too much upon like Iceman from the comic books where he just like shoot the ice and wave.
Yeah.
If it's too similar, then people would get pulled out of the movie, I think. They're just similar enough to where you can make the comparison.
Now, I know I said this on our previous episode, but this one even more felt like Predator, especially when he was having to sneak back in and stuff in the jungle, going all stealth and whatever. That really reminded me of Predator. There was one scene specifically.
When they found all those spines hanging from the tree.
Yeah, just like all that stuff. Like, just I like that whole aspect of Predator, like the whole sneaking around in the jungle before they even encountered the Predator.
I did like when the kids were in the jungle and they were fighting back the bad guys. Their parents weren't there with them to help them out, so this is really their first opportunity to use their abilities because their parents always taught them, don't do it. So it was kind of neat when they were discovering what they can do.
Right, like the fact when he's running, he keeps going on the water.
He didn't realize he could run on the water.
Yeah, he probably never did that. He never had the opportunity to run as fast as he could.
Right.
I thought it was funny when he throws out his back, laughing after he throws the first robot.
I laughed out loud.
I thought that was pretty good. I don't know.
He threw out his back because he was fighting that first test robot basically.
Yeah. And then it looks like it's pulling them apart. It kind of makes me cringe a little bit.
Yeah, it almost looks like he's gonna rip them half, and then you hear crack, and he sigh of relief. That's
what I'm saying. Like, there's a little human aspects of them, that just it makes it more real almost. If you can make it, I think, feel like these are. You can see yourself or someone in these people. It makes, even though it's a really fantastic thing happening, they have superpowers and all this other stuff. It helps me, like the fact that I'm watching this cartoon guy, get pulled apart, and I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, it's gonna rip him apart, but it just cracks his back, and then I don't know, just something about it. It works.
That was a good joke. It was a good setup.
I thought it was really interesting when you find out how he was when they show. He's looking at the giant computer screen, which, by the way, that reminded me of Cerebro from X-Men. But he's looking at the computer, and it's showing basically all these other superheroes, and you'll see what model robot killed them, and eventually one of them will have defeated that, and it would say terminated over here for the robots. And they showed the new model, how many of those heroes got killed. I just thought it was interesting. Also you see when Edna's talking about no capes.
I think that'd be similar to the Sentinel storyline, where they're sending Sentinels.
Yeah, sure, I can see that.
Yeah. And they keep upgrading them to make them better.
Right. But when Edna's even talking about all the caped people, I just thought wow, it'd be almost, there's all these other heroes. You see a few of them at the wedding, and I kind of thought I'd just be interested to know a little more about these people, who they all were, and how many superheroes are still out there. Surely Mr. Incredible and his family and Frozone weren't the only ones left, right? I hope.
I assume there's going to be more showing up in the next one.
Yeah. So, I have to mention it. Got to grab them booties. Come on. It's like you said, there's a few adult things.
Like when she was pinching his butt?
He pinched her butt.
He gave her a little slap on the tush.
I thought he pinched her. He might have slapped her, whatever. But basically, then she reaches up and grabs him. You have...
And then she won't let him leave for work.
Exactly. What's that insinuate? And then even Mirage...
Somebody's making brownies.
Yeah. And then Mirage is wearing that very low-cut dress. It's just kind of surprising, like you said, for what we would think of as a kids anime movie to have any references to, ooh, Mr. Incredible married Elastigirl and got busy.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. It's just kind of
they sneak that stuff into the movies sometimes. I think this movie
But this, I was going to say, it's not really sneaking, but yeah.
I think, I watched Shrek in the theater, and, some of the adult jokes were a little too on point.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that, okay, he wants to get Mr. Incredible. He feels this grudge against him, but yet he allows him to get comfortable. He's allowing him to feel like, I kind of got a job. He's getting a nice car, and he gets a car for his wife. He's getting in shape. He's playing with the kids. All that stuff. He doesn't just go right out and be like, I got you. For whatever reason, it's like a mind game he did. And it's kind of surprising to me, most modern movies want to just action, 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 action. And this one took its time. He gets to the island, and they show he's taking forever, just running around, out of breath, taking little breaks, trying to find the thing.
Looking for clues, sneaking around.
Yeah. Most modern movies don't do that. We kind of talked about Conan, about taking their time. I feel like maybe that one took a little too much time, but I'm not trying to knock it. But I feel like this one took a good amount of time. It didn't drag too much, but it didn't just rush. I just thought it struck a nice balance, to me at least. of pacing it just that sweet spot. Right there. Right there.
Yes.
So, Mr. Incredible falls into the water. Syndrome sends his little bomb thing down there. He gets his readout that says Mr. Incredible is terminated. I was kind of actually surprised that he would, after all these years of harboring, bad feelings and wanting revenge and all this stuff, that he would be satisfied with just not seeing it and it being so quick. Like, you would think he would want to be able to look him in the eye and, like, drag it out. Maybe that's kind of heavy, but actually I kind of feel like they had him be fairly evil. Like, for an anime movie that's for Pixar with Disney, it is surprising how evil they actually made him, or heartless, or selfish, or whatever. But anyway, I just it kind of almost felt like that wouldn't be satisfactory enough.
Would you like it better if he was worn like Dalmatian furs and drowning puppies?
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, but anyway, continue.
I was surprised at the end of the movie when they had him get sucked into the jet.
It was cool because it was a nice.
They didn't show it, but anybody that's watching it that knows better, like an adult, is gonna know the guy got chopped up
just as much as they showed all the other ones that got caught up.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal one.
So Edna didn't specifically say this, but it kind of makes me wonder. She specifically says with the baby's suit that it's bulletproof, and I was thinking, like, she never said that with the others, but I'm thinking surely you would make all of them bulletproof, but I don't know, maybe they were. But then again, if that was the case, I feel like Elastigirl would have been fine when she was like caught between like three doors and like her middle was.
That was an interesting scene, predicament for her to be in.
Yeah.
It was a clever way to get her in danger without having to fight a whole room of people.
Yeah.
Just take out one guy here. Oh, but she's trapped in the door. Now what is she going to do? Oh, here comes another guy. Get him. Now she's trapped in another door.
And I like that she actually hid the bodies. Like, she didn't just leave them out. She actually like drug, what was it, 4 guys I think all together, and like put them somewhere so that
everybody heard it now. It's on the podcast. Josh likes it when you hide the bodies.
Yes. Well, hey, you're the one talking about hiding Dave in the wall.
I did say something about that.
Yes, you did. That was your little joke.
Dave, are you here?
Yeah, I'm still here, Brandon.
So when he jumps on that little, like, for lack of a better word, car, the little round thing on the track, the train car, whatever you want to call it, I thought it was funny. He dents the roof. He kicks those guys out. I thought it was just funny that he actually took the time to, like, push it back out. I don't know. For whatever reason, that amused me.
Well, he's a dad now. I guess dads would do that kind of thing. Oh, look, something's broke. Let me fix it.
The globs that they were shooting at him, and they expand on him, and they just kept piling up. I almost feel that would have suffocated him. Like, if they didn't get.
Well, maybe if he wasn't super.
Well, yeah, but like that's the thing. I feel like his only power is strength.
Well, he's got durability too. Like a train hit him, and he was okay.
But still, his breathing. How are you durable with your breathing?
Well, how are you gonna get crushed if you have super durability?
Excuse me?
How are you gonna get crushed if you have super durability?
Well, I'm not talking about him being crushed. I'm talking about it encompassing his mouth and nose where he can't get air. And
maybe he passed out, and that's how they got him in the chains.
That could be.
The electric chains.
So a lot of these movies you watch, like Power Rangers, I just kind of talked about in the last episode, it's a type of thing where they're training and like they can't figure out how to get their armor on, but of course, like at the last minute when they really need it, they're able to do it. And I thought it was kind of cool that once the mom realizes, like, okay, I can't outrun all these missiles, like Violet, you're gonna have to put a force field around the plane, and she keeps trying, but she can't get it any bigger than like a basketball. Finally, most movies I feel like they would have had, like at the last second, the 11th hour, she would have done it and saved them. But instead, I thought it was cool that they show the mom just ditches everything, goes back there and wraps herself around them.
It did. It was cool. They made it seem like the parents had all experience from before fighting crime, so they were a lot quicker on their feet, and they had more of an idea what they were doing.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, it was cool that she still didn't even get it at that point. Like, it was still something that, she struggled with.
What we were talking about before, they didn't really understand their powers because they were told never to use them, so they didn't have any practice.
I thought it was also cool the way they show how they would use their powers together, or how they would even use their powers separately. Like, she takes a manhole and she uses she wraps her arm around a lamppost or whatever to
slingshots it.
Fling it. she uses her force field and he just runs them away, kind of like a hamster ball, but still she's protecting him and he's getting her away from the danger. Just little stuff like that I liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like when they do stuff like that, although sometimes it's almost doesn't make sense. In this movie, it was all good, but I'm thinking back to Avengers. I like the Avengers. Mm-hmm. It's cool watching them fight together. But, like, there's a scene where
Captain America and the
Iron
shield
Man
and
shoots
Iron Man.
The shield into...
It
for
doesn't
no reason.
seem like that helps it any more unless...
So he's shooting Captain America's shield, and Captain America's using the shield to hit the guys. Well, why didn't he just hit the guys?
Yeah, I know. I can totally understand that. The only thing I can maybe say is maybe it made the blast bigger. I don't know. I'm trying to...
I mean, I'd have to go back and look at it again, but I don't remember it being necessary.
This is the first time I noticed when, Mr. Incredible's listening to his wife beg for, call off your attack, blah, blah, blah. He knows it's her. She finally says there are children aboard. So he knows basically my whole family's there. And she says target destroyed, which she wasn't wrong. It was destroyed. And I think was that right when, is that when he grabs her and he's like threatening to crush her? But finally he lets her go and they walk away. I never noticed all these years I've seen this movie. He's crying. You can hear him, like they show his head's down low and you know he's obviously upset, but you actually hear him crying. I never picked up on that.
I didn't notice.
Yes, I did. One thing I noticed too that I never noticed before, and I was going to say something that I was like, no, it's your first time, I'll just let you watch it. I'm going to go back. When they show right after all the superheroes get in trouble, they're showing like newspapers, like, I thought it said like, I can't remember the name of the superhero, but like it was a very like visual name, as if he had like X-ray vision. It sounded like they said he was accused of peeping, and I was like, whoa, that's just kind of surprising.
Well, in 2018, he'd be accused of peeping, whether he did it or not.
Small nitpick. How do the masks stay on? It doesn't really matter, but it's just funny. You have these masks that magically stay on, and they can express
glue
with their face. How do they express?
It's Sharpie.
Okay. So this isn't a big deal either, but like Violet and Jack are the only ones they show, at least, they have multiple powers. Everyone else seems to have just one. Obviously, it's just for storytelling purposes that they gave them multiple abilities, but it just kind of makes you wonder, why is that? I know it's putting way too much thought into it.
What are Violet's multiple?
Invisibility and force fields. Yeah.
Okay. Well, invisibility by itself isn't that useful.
But still, it's an ability. Regardless, she has an ability. That's, Jack, of what they showed, he can turn to like a human torch, essentially.
A little demon.
A little monster, and he can also turn into a, like lead. Like or iron or something.
I
metallic.
wasn't too clear on exactly what his ability was. So is he shape changing? Is he actually like, I don't know exactly what he was doing. But
I know that we'll probably see more of that.
Yeah.
The second one.
Yeah, I think I knew that about the baby already, like that it was going to have powers. And that's another thing that reminded me of the Fantastic Four. Like, you had the Fantastic Four, you had the strong guy, the stretchy guy, the flame guy, and the invisible girl. Mm-hmm. And two of them were married and they ended up having a kid. And then their kid ends up being like one of the most powerful beings in all of Marvel.
Who is it?
His name's Franklin Richards. He can manipulate reality. Oh. So anything he wants to do, he can do. Okay. Which, when you're a terrible toddler, can be quite a problem. Yeah. He's like the kid from the Twilight Zone that wishes people out into the cornfield. Yeah. Except, he can walk up to the most powerful Marvel characters like Galactus. I think he actually made... You know how Galactus works? He has a herald that goes out and to warn the planet, like, hey...
Yeah, doesn't he eat the planet?
Galactus is coming. Yeah, he'll eat the planet. It's his job to go around and just devour things. He's always hungry. And basically, he's going to keep doing that until there's nothing left. And when there's nothing left, everything starts over again, and then there's a new Galactus. Oh. So that's the way he works. So he'll send out a herald, some powerful character, to go tell the planet, prepare for Galactus. Maybe he can save a few people, because he's not really a bad guy. He doesn't want to eat people, but he has to. It's his job. Okay. So he's one of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel. He's up there. I don't know if he's not number one, but he's within the top 15, 10, whatever. Okay. And Franklin Richards is powerful enough to where I think he turned Galactus into his herald in one story.
Oh.
So it's pretty funny.
I just thought it was a funny line, just from a kid's point of view, where she's like, this is serious. Mom and Dad, their lives could be in danger, or worse,
their marriage.
It's just kind of a cute
coming
line.
From a teenage girl. Yeah.
I thought it was funny how they're kind of arguing or bickering while all this is, they're running for their lives, just the way brother and sister would be, or even, husband and wife fighting while they're arguing, fighting while they're fighting. Just that was kind of funny. Again, just the human, like, real life. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What? Shut up. But yeah, again, and this isn't going to make sense to you from the TV show Heroes. He says something about everyone can be super. There's this one episode of Heroes where they go into the future and you find out pretty much everybody has powers. It just was interesting to me. Obviously that means nothing to you, but
I'm thinking about how when there's too many super people around, how it kind of dilutes the story a little bit. Like, it doesn't mean anything. You're not special anymore if everybody's special.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
And they kind of made a comment about that in the movie.
Yeah, because
I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was a dialogue between the mother and the son.
When she says everyone's special, and he says, everyone's special is just another way of saying nobody is. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah.
That's one of the things that started to annoy me about the X-Men movies a little bit. There's just too many of them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because if everyone has something, even if it's not entirely the same thing,
I feel like Avengers is doing it okay, because we're basically sticking with the same group of people, and every now and then one new guy will pop up. I brought this up before. I think I did anyway. Me and John used to watch True Blood.
Yes.
One of the things that was a little bit annoying about the show was it started off like, all right, this one person is different from everybody else in this little tiny town in the middle of the swamp, basically. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, there's vampires too. All right, fine. There's a couple of them in town. Oh, well, now this lady is an imp. This guy is a werewolf now. Oh, look, there's a guy who's a shape changer. Until eventually nobody in the town is normal anymore.
That, even though I didn't watch it, that kind of reminds me, I don't know if it's still on, that Grimm show.
I'm sure it's similar.
I remember, like, one time flipping through and I just, like, stopped for a second. It's just, like, terrible. Every episode had where somebody, it was like, okay, have you ever seen that zombie booth thing where, like, you look at it and it makes you look like a zombie, or it makes you look like whatever? It looked like that kind of effect, which is not that great. I mean, it's fun for your phone, but, like, for a show. And everyone was just always like, rah, and when they would, like, do that, their face would, like, morph. And it was just so...
Did you watch I Am Legend?
Once.
Was it like that, where they had, like, the super big mouths and it just looked stupid?
Yes. But worse, if you can believe it.
Well, that's hard to believe.
Yeah. So, obviously, Brad Bird did the Iron Giant. I saw a slight... I mean, maybe it's just any giant robot attacking the city, but it kind of reminded me when the Iron Giant kind of went to his original... what he was meant to do.
Well, it made me think of War of the Worlds. Both movies did.
Yeah, I can see that. It's funny. I again, I'm not saying he ripped off his own movie, but, like, any movie, again, with a giant robot doing that. But I think whereas, like, Pacific Rim doesn't, because they're so humanoid looking, it's... Granted,
Pacific Rim is more like certain Japanese style, yeah.
Not anime, but...
well, yeah, there's anime. There's one, I'm trying to remember what it was called, but basically it was Batman. Except for he had a giant suit, a giant robot suit that he would use to fight other giant robots or something. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. Yeah. And there's another one. There's a series called Gundam something or other where it's giant robots. You've seen Voltron, I'm sure. And
I only know of Voltron. That was not one I saw.
Power Rangers is actually Japanese.
Yeah.
Super Sentai.
Mm-hmm. So Syndrome, basically, his whole plan is that he wants to be a superhero. So he's
got a syndrome.
He makes this robot attack the city so he can pretend to, fight it off to save people. So one of the first things that happen is an oil trucker is falling. He catches it with his 0-point injury. But what I thought was funny is he saves the woman. He just, Iron Syndrome, and he throws his hand up and it just flings behind him where it probably...
Yeah, you laughed at that part.
It probably hit some other people. So he's saving people, but then he probably
doesn't know what he's doing.
It just, it shows his inexperience, where at least The others would...
He looked like a cross between the Freakazoid and a troll doll.
I could see that.
The movie also kind of reminded me of there's a little bit of The Tick in there.
Okay.
Just a comedy with goofy superheroes.
Yeah.
And that are kind of based on actual superheroes.
Yeah.
Well, and by actual, I mean from comic books.
You mean it's not real superheroes?
Well, we always have... I don't know, fill in the blank.
Did you ever... I saw this one thing, it was ridiculous, on the news where people were in some town actually dressing up, but they would do stuff like help an old lady across the street. Or
Yeah, Batman is popular for that.
But they weren't... The ones I seen, I don't think he was dressed up as any specific superhero.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, like, you know, if he saw some guy run a red light, he might write down the description. He would find a cop, and, you know, in his own way, I'm doing good work. And the cop was like, looked like he was just trying not to laugh.
One of the movies that I kept thinking of while watching this, and there weren't like really any similarities too much, but Mystery Men.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, I can see that.
I don't know if it's just because it's a superhero thing.
So, you know, they're using the RV and the rocket to, like, get them. I thought it was kind of funny she didn't use, like, her parachute thing to kind of...
Well, she's already kind of stretched out. Maybe she had to hold on to the rocket.
Right, but when she let go, they're just kind of flying toward the road. I'm surprised that she wouldn't try to use, like, her... I mean...
I thought it was funny they used that scene to mimic the horrors of family vacations.
Yeah. And I thought it was funny, too, when they finally crash and, like, the car is tipping, you see him kind of just do this lean to get it to fall back in place. I don't know, just little stuff like that I think is funny. If they did it, I didn't catch it, but I thought it was kind of a missed opportunity when they finally get in the city. The robot throws him into an office building. I thought it would have been great if that was his former work. If maybe he would have got thrown right onto the, you know, he is flinging through all this office space and he lands right on the desk of the boss that fired him, and you can see maybe he's still in a cast.
Yeah, you're right. That would have been a good callback.
Another thing I just thought was funny when he throws her like a spear, she grabs the baby, she's flying down, and he's like looking for something. He throws his nice fancy new car that basically Syndrome got for him. So and it's like, in a way, Syndrome playing games with him gave him ammunition to throw and kill him in the end. So that was kind of ironic.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, he would have thrown something else if he had, you know.
That's something writers like to do a lot.
But just I thought
have it come back around like that.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I thought the movie was cool. What do you think the casting of it, like their voice acting and all that?
What did I think?
Yeah. Did you have any issues with any of them?
No, not really.
Holly Hunter a little bit. I couldn't decide if I liked her voice or not.
She, if I'm not mistaken, she's deaf in one ear. That's why she has that little bit of a...
I've seen her in a few other movies, and I don't ever remember hearing that.
Okay. She was in Batman vs. Superman. I know that much because I remember thinking
she was
it's
one
kind
of
of funny.
The Congress.
I thought it was kind of funny because or
a senator or something like that.
But, you know, it didn't bother me, you know.
I couldn't decide if it bothered me or not. It was enough to make me think about it.
I guess because I'm just so used to that's her voice, like it just doesn't bother me or.
But I've never noticed it before. Like she was in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
Mm-hmm. She was George Clooney's like wife.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, she's been in a few Coen Brothers movies, and that's mostly where I've seen her from.
Okay.
And just I've never noticed it before.
Oh. Yeah.
But you know, I guess when you're listening to somebody's performance instead of just looking at it,
sure,
then maybe you catch things you didn't before.
That could be.
Like Christian Bale for the longest time. I never noticed he has like a growth, like a mole or something, like
mole,
right in his eye, basically.
Yeah.
Never noticed it, and then I noticed it when it was in that third Batman movie that he did. I noticed it big time then, and I think maybe before they would always kind of like maybe light his face in a certain way to where it didn't really show up as much, but in that they didn't care. So you would see it real big. I saw it in it might as well have been his head because that's all I could look at. And now that I go back and watch some of his older stuff,
it's
there, and I never noticed it before.
I've had things like that too. Mm-hmm. You know, but final thoughts.
Yeah, the movie was good. The performances were good. I had that slight thing I said about Holly Hunter, but I mean, it didn't bother me. It was something that I noticed.
Okay.
I like that they went to an island location, spent a lot of time there, and fought him there. Reminded me of James Bond.
Yeah.
Reminded me of a few other things. Reminded me of the Venture Brothers. Just all these things that I'm already kind of into.
Yeah. Plus, I think if the whole movie would have been set in the city, one, it would have seemed like every other superhero movie, and two, it made the stakes that much higher because now people's lives were in danger. So I think that was a good choice.
It was good storytelling, the way they did it, the way they changed, locations and brought it all back.
Yeah.
And then the final boss is basically a big robot.
Yeah, because by that point, Syndrome had kind of got knocked out. So
he was basically done at that point. He came back just to die a minute later, but still.
Well, yeah, he basically, that's when he figured out to go to where they lived or whatever. But
I enjoyed the movie it's more for adults, the storyline, really. I mean, kids are just going to like it because it's animated and it's superheroes.
Yeah.
As you get older, you're going to realize the plot line is actually an adult plot line.
Right.
Although it doesn't use adult language or too many there's people that die, but they don't show anything graphically.
No.
None of it's really even on camera. There's just an explosion in the distance, or
it's kind of surprising to me. There's guns, actual shooting of guns, that. Just kind of for a Pixar Disney movie, that is kind of surprising to me.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I haven't seen any trailers, but I'm gonna guess that there's no guns on the next one.
We'll see. I don't know.
That's more of a hot issue than it was back then.
That's true.
Yeah, I kind of want to see the next one now. I'll give it an A minus.
Minus?
A minus.
Okay.
So my final thoughts are, like I said many times, this is my second favorite Pixar movie. I think they did an amazing job showcasing real life problems mixed with this fantastic adventure. They have a great balance of everything from the drama and action, comedy, adventure, just the right pacing with, not moving so fast, but also not dragging, and like I said, it's just funny that a movie this recent, would, you would think it would just be, like I said, just nonstop, just bam, bam, bam action. It's refreshing that they took some time to set up who these people are, what kind of world they're living in, who everybody is, and how just the dynamic of how things change and how they were and how they become. And I don't know, I just think it's great. It's just got everything that anyone could ever want. There's something for everybody here. Like we were talking about, it's typically probably would get lumped in with a kids movie, but really when you think about it, it's really not. Cars is the Pixar kids movie, and yeah, every Pixar movie can really be like a kids movie, but this one is maybe the most non-kids movie of the bunch, and I'm really hoping that they don't try to get wrapped up in what's trendy now for the sequel. I hope that they stay true to the original and, just that kind of template that they had there for the first one. I hope that's what they carry with into the second one. We talked about the Iron Giant, how much we both really like that, and you can definitely see Brad Bird's fingerprints, and I'm not trying to give him too much credit, but I do give him a lot. But his fingerprint on both these types of movies in that style, and just how well he did both of them, and I can't speak highly enough of it. It's an A+ for me. I was really looking forward to it. I'm glad you liked it as well. And so that's it.
You're stupid. Okay.
Well, anyway, that's that. I'm really happy we got this one in the can, and I'm looking forward to this Friday.
Yeah, if you have any questions, comments, requests, complaints, you need a recipe for something, just go ahead and drop us a line. You can leave a comment below, or you can send us a mail, contact us on Facebook, say hello, make fun of Josh, call Brandon stupid, ask where Dave is. Yeah, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Podomatic. I made a comment about
Twitter.
I made a comment on our Facebook about another Escape podcast not having as many likes as we did, and now they're ahead of us. So help us out, spread the word.
Yeah, give us a rate and a review. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah, do something. Throw us a freaking bone.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We're gonna call it a wrap, and we'll see you next time.
Ta-ta.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to travel through time. I bid you adieu.
Don't stop now!
You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
Where are you going?
I've got to return some videotapes.
Bye, Felicia.
Brandon, you don't know this, but when I find you, I'm going to get you. Do you hear me? I will find you. I will find you. I will find you!